Inglorious. Wait. We need to wait for 7 seconds before I can even say the title of the film because of how YouTube works. But let's be real, this video is getting demonetized anyway. Is a hypothetical fever dream by Quentin Tarantino to explore World War II themes and put Brad Pitt as a character insert of himself, and of course, to kill Hitler. But if we shift the perspective from
Lieutenant Aldo Raine
and instead focus on
Hans Landa,
then it becomes a story of seeing the writing on the wall and pivoting to survive, only to become an unwilling Charles Manson. But to understand that, let me just put you in his shoes. So imagine for a second that you are Hans Landa. You were born in Austria in the extremely late 1800s. You are a survivor, and you will do whatever it takes to not die. You saw the Great War as it was happening, saw the fall of the Austro-Hungarian Empire, and decided that you didn't really want to go into the meat grinder. So instead, you opted to skirt typical enlistment and focus on other endeavors, becoming an MP for the army. This is not canon, this is just what I think. Through the years as a military police officer, you developed a certain knack for understanding the world around you, understanding people, probably better than they know themselves sometimes, and a deep love of puzzles, or more specifically, incomplete puzzles, and the game. In a nutshell, you became a detective, and a pretty good one at that. Able to join dots that other people cannot see, think in ways that other people cannot do.
I love rumors. Facts can be so misleading, but rumors, true or false, are often revealing.
Because you're not bound by some ideological passion, but just a deep love of trying to outwit any opponent that comes your way and seeing where it all goes. And over the years, you developed the name.
Did they call you the John?
Precisely.
Imagine your surprise though that after years of hyperinflation following the war to end all wars, when a failed artist from Austria manages to rise the ranks of German politics and becomes a chancellor. Doing so by the typical nationalist approach of blaming someone else for the country's problems and their rise to power, hijacking that tribalistic wiring of the human condition that hotshot psychologist called the narcissism of small differences. But where some countries blame migration, Hitler decided to blame Jewish people, because apparently them having a few news outlets meant they were running some kind of secret cabal that ruled the world apparently. Anyone with half a brain could have seen that the Germans were gearing for invasion, and the British Prime Minister Chamberlain was trying out this hotshot new tactic called appeasement. Just a fancy way of saying, you can have that land but absolutely no more, only for Hitler to take more land, and then the cycle repeated itself. So you joined the Austrian forces, only for Austria to get annexed, and because of your proven track record and skill, you were inducted into the SS. Honestly, not that you particularly cared about where you were, but this job allowed you to do what you loved, investigate people and outsmart them. Of course, the French created a defensive fortress around their border, and Hitler, being of a certain mind, just blitzed his way through Belgium, corralled the English in Dunkirk, and proceeded to take the north of France. And that leads you to today. Hitler wants to round up the Jewish people, and naturally that's where you came in, finding their hiding places with ruthless efficiency. And that led you to a French man rumored to be harboring a Jewish family. Of course, he's stalwart, but you love the little cat and mouse game, and he's very good at not giving the game away so easily, and you're enjoying that. So you switch to English.
Je suis au regret de vous informer que j'ai épuisé l'étendue de mon français.
Sprinkle in a few implicit threats, a few underhanded statements,
But there's so many places it would never occur to Hawk to hide.
so that he can figure out that you know what's going on, and of course drink some milk because it's a dairy farm after. And you drink the milk because also in these situations, people need incentive. You accept a gift to bestow a gift, a mutually beneficial exchange. It makes the whole process a lot easier. So you hand him an olive branch.
Will not be met with punishment. Actually, quite the contrary. It will be met with reward.
You can capture more flies with honey than vinegar. But not before you tell him all about the rat philosophy, typical German propaganda, where they think of it as propaganda. You kind of see the truth. You believe that you are a rat, you are a survivor, but you also know how to be a squirrel. Still a rat, but one that hides in plain sight and can ride out a long and harsh winter with proper preparation and planning, while also being charming enough and honestly not as threatening enough to skirt detection. One girl, though, does get away, and honestly you probably could have killed her, but a gun is honestly just barbaric. And besides, the world is boring. By keeping her alive, you sow a little chaos, and you keep the game interesting. Just keeps the pieces moving forward. And years passed and you get a bit disenfranchised by the regime. England didn't fall in the Battle of Britain, and the Soviets managed to hold Germany back long enough for the Americans to finally get their fingers out of their asses and join the war. Because of the blitzkrieg style of warfare that Hitler was doing, he just lost steam and momentum. But one of those Americans is a man named Aldo, who you have taken it upon yourself to investigate closely. A man of ruthless tenacity who seems wholly bent on sending a message to the Germans, creating an almost Robin Hood-like figure who serves as your perfect foil, where you work alone and are calculated and dispassionate. He is the leader of a brutish outfit and a complete ideologue motivated to destroy all Nazis and crippling their morale by using sinister techniques such as scalping to put the fear in them. And it works. Even Hitler grew scared of these monsters. And every single person that survived that ordeal, you had to interview. And all of these people only spoke of their savagery, while bearing the mark of the survivor. But things are slowly turning, and Goebbels wants to create a new film. The Pride of Germany, a completely outlandish story of a German soldier who apparently killed several hundred men in a bell tower only using a sniper rifle and never once changed his position into an army equipped with mortars, dynamite, and God knows whatever else. But despite the obvious flaws of this story, it serves as a masterful piece of Nazi propaganda. Because honestly, when you're trying to convince a nation to cleanse entire groups of people, you need some pretty clever no, actually you don't. People just gotta make them hate them. That's all you gotta do. Anyway, imagine your surprise when that German war hero wants to change venues. It seems like he caught the eye of some random French lady, but she's not random. Actually, she's a woman you've been keeping tabs on for years, which is incredibly curious to you. How did this happen? Does she know anything? And is she doing this to get close to the elite? So, under the guise of chief of security, which is incredibly handy, you get her alone and interview her. You order strudel. Again, it's a simple gesture of hospitality, but also is to see whether or not she can eat through the obvious anxiety. And milk. Just a small little nugget to tell her that you know who she is and that you are in complete control of her destiny right now. But she seems honest. She doesn't seem to know why she is here, and that she was just whisked away into something that she didn't completely understand. And you wonder, is this by divine chance, or is it just an incredibly surreal coincidence? Either way, you tell her to keep her friend hidden, because you are intensely curious about what she could do. Will she take revenge on the Nazis? Will she try to end the war? Or will she cower in meekness? You need her to be in control of the situation, because you want her to be your opponent, not some random guy in the movies.
Il y avait une autre chose que je voulais vous demander.
And with that, you leave her with all of the information necessary for her to piece together what you know. Because again, this is a cat and mouse game. It's only fun if you both pretend you don't know what's going on and you both lay out your cards in underhanded and mysterious ways. Unfortunately, most people don't think like that though. A few days later though, you catch word of a shootout in a basement, which also functioned as a tavern. Of course, as chief investigator, you are first on the scene and you take it upon yourself to see what the situation is. And you see the corpses of a few of those bastards and what is apparently a complete departure of their typical MO, which is to ambush in strategic locations and gun people down. No, They're absolutely planning something, and you can smell it, and Hammersmark is in the thick of it. So, naturally, you want to see where this all goes. Of course, you could just tell the Germans exactly what's going on. You could easily tell them that the Americans are working with Hammersmark, or the cinema is owned by a Jewish lady, but maybe something can come out of this that would best serve you. Or you just get to keep the game going just that little bit longer so you can come out on top and swoop in at the final moments like a hero. Honestly, Germany is 100% going to lose the war at this point. You know it. Hitler has become unhinged in recent years, like even more unhinged, because you've got word that his dependence on that South American white powder and his dependence on that brand new thing called amphetamine and all other hodgepodge of has taken its psychological toll on him. The Americans and the English have started thwarting certain German operations with suspicious precision. It's almost as if they've cracked the Enigma machine and choosing they stop very carefully, just enough that it hurts Germany, but sprinkled out over time that no one, except you of course, has any idea of what they're actually doing. This is where it all unfolds. All of the chaos that has been planted will finally bear fruit, and you will finally see the end game of this game of chess that you've been playing for years. This is the night that will change the war, and either Germany will get its piece of perfect propaganda, or a French lady will do something truly crazy, or Hammersmark and the Americans will have their own plan concocted for this moment.
Also, was ist mit dem wunderschönen Bein geschehen?
Of course, you already know how she injured her leg, but you are so curious as to what their excuse might be, because honestly, it has to be good. What plus stimulants? Well, you were expecting something slightly more believable. She could have said that she was trying her hand at her own stunts, or that she fell down the stairs. Either way, what the fuck was that story? This is, okay, it's the most unhinged and unlikely cover you've ever heard, but maybe it's so unhinged that people would actually believe it. Huh. Not you, of course, because you already know what's going on. And it seems that the men she is with is very clearly Aldo and his American lackeys obviously have something planned for the evening. But this is an interesting proposition. With the Americans here, you can honestly leverage this in your favor. You can play all of the angles here. You can get the Americans to win and agree to the German surrender. You could get the Germans to win, but ultimately that will lead to the slow eventual defeat in the war and you will be tried and executed. So you actually take away Hammersmark on her own because, well, honestly, you don't want another person potentially taking credit for this operation. And you need to tie up any loose ends so you are the only one who gets all of the glory.
What's that American expression? If the shoe fits, you must wear it.
When the game is given up, she finally reveals she knows what's going on. So naturally, it's whatever. So you swap places with another man to let them fulfill their kinky little fetish fantasy like they do with every other movie and strangle this woman. Call up one of your guys and take the Americans to a private location to hash out the deal. And with that,
Your Honor, I'm a detective. A damn good detective.
Honestly, you started to dislike this name now because it's so regressive. You're not a hunter of one group of people, you're a hunter of all the people. You are a master of cunning and manipulation and charisma. You are an agent, a spy, not some hatchet man.
Sergeant Donowitz and Private Omar.
You know our names.
Anyway, you get some interrogation going, but honestly, it seems like this Aldo guy is a bit of an idiot.
If you don't think I wouldn't interrogate every single one of you swastika-marked survivors, you simply aren't operating on the level of mutual respect, I assume.
No, I guess not.
So you opt to break it down simply so You have to drop the cat and mouse game, unfortunately, because it seems that Aldo doesn't play that kind of way.
All I have to do is pick up this phone right here, inform the cinema, and your plan's kaput.
So you tell him in plain words that even a toddler can
You
understand.
may very well get all four. And if you get all four, you end the war.
And it seems breaking it down so these simpletons can understand it does work, but losing that sly game of underhanded. But it seems like the Americans only have one thing that they understand.
We have to make a deal.
Oh, and it seems like he's working with someone very high up.
Ooh, that's a bingo.
But you need assurances. You know that after all of the things that you've done, you will probably get the death penalty or worse. Much worse. Because what the Nazis have done over the course of these years can only be described as heinous, horrible, and monstrous. Frankly, the Nazis have done the most horrific thing that humanity has probably ever done. Ever. Or ever will do. Hopefully, this is the worst thing that humans will ever do in humanity's lifetime, because fuck me. What a terrible thing that happened. And we should not forget this. We should never forget what happened in those years, because it serves as a very important learning thing that we should never do that again to anyone.
Long story short, we hear a story too good to be true. It ain't.
Yeah, it seems like his simple-mindedness does understand some things, but you want to survive this, and getting in bed with the Allies right now is the only way you can survive.
What shall the history books read?
Because even if those men don't blow themselves up, you're pretty sure that woman does have a plan up her sleeve. She seemed awfully confident, like she was onto something. And they do agree to it, which is incredibly handy for you. And so you get on the horn and you hash out a little deal for your future life of affluence in the land of the free, where you can live lavishly in a country that managed to skirt any significant damage to itself other than manpower. And thus, you know, in a few years, it will experience what is known as the post-war economic miracle and become, while the rest of the world, or more specifically Europe, has to rebuild itself. If you like the video, please give it a like. And consider subscribing, because I do make other videos like this. This was a bit of a weird one for me to make, and I know I said a minute ago, but this time in history does represent like what is the most important moment in recent human years. Like, if we forget the things that we did there, we have the potential to make those same mistakes. I wouldn't want that to happen. So even though I know I'm just one other pointless voice, I still think it's important to say and reaffirm there is no excuse for what happened then. No excuse. And it should never happen again. But anyway, I just want to shout out my members real quick, especially Jay and Granite. Granite just got his video made by becoming a partner. So if you ever want to become a partner, I will make a video for you, but if too many people do it, then there might be a queue. And of course, Lavender, Zyla, Sam, Louise or Lewis or Mr. Ventura, Alyssa, and Alan. Thank you guys. Have a great day and have a great life. Economic powerhouse and subtlety. It's so boring.